All right, we're here. This is great. Nikki, thank you for joining. It's Friday for us,
Yeah.
afternoon ish, and we've been chatting today. We're doing stuff. We like to create content. We like to help people. We're working on solutions, and I was getting ready to update some of my demos, and we were already chatting. So I was like, why don't you just like come on and join me? So thank you so much for hanging out. And we have a couple of topics. We have a couple of things that we can talk about.
Oh, nothing better than talking with Deshaun on a Friday, man.
I I really enjoyed yesterday's conversation that you had on Cloud Foundry Weekly with Josh. There was one thing that really, which I've been saying it, but I haven't been saying it in as clear. Right? He's amazing,
Yep.
and it was around the when you guys were talking about 12 factors, and he's like, yeah, it implies that there's a place, a system, a platform that's going to be able to handle these things and consume and support and take advantage of the 12 factors. And it's been top of mind because the 12 factors, I don't know if I told you this, the 12 factors like group, the consortium, the minds, the people that are out and kind of preaching and talking about this, the folks over at Heroku kind of brought the minds in and they said, hey, like we think it's time to revisit
Yep.
some of this, right? And that's actually happening right now. There's a whole like open source asking for feedback, asking for blogs and stuff, and even at the beginning, our friend Kote, I'd had a conversation with him not too long ago where he's like, it seems like there should be like a 12 factors for a platform, but I don't know if there's a 12 factor for a platform. It's here's our 12 factor app, run it,
Yep.
right? That's the kind of thing. So I don't know if there's a 12 factor platform per se because yeah, platforms are always evolving. But I think this idea of the 12 factor app and Josh's words, he's like, it's like yin and yang, right? If
Yep.
we can understand what this app looks like, there's more people, hopefully, there's more people developing applications, 12 factor applications, cloud native applications than there are platforms for them. I
Yep.
hope that that's the case, right?
Well, and you brought up with so one of the most interesting things that I thought came out of that was actually the opening segment that Josh did where he was talking about the airport, right? And he brought that in and said, "Hey, airports, we're using security and you're looking at it like microservices." And going on what you just said, there's a good way to take that a little bit further, right? We don't have
Yeah,
security stations if you don't have an airport. We can kind of make that comparison as well.
love it.
If you don't have security stations, you don't have a place for the airplanes to land. Well, it does you no good. Same thing with having a platform as a service, something like Cloud Foundry. You got to have that airport ready to make everything else easy. And absolutely, applications are what run the world. But how do we make things easier for developers to put applications out there?
Yep, that's the idea. So on that developer track, I'm going to jump down to this. I kind of showed you some of this at Spring One. I've been messing with it. Let me see if I can find a repo. So I made this repo for this idea of if I've got Cloud Foundry or Kubernetes or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
this one of the 12 factors is like, hey, keep your environment parity. Like I want to be able to have kind of the same thing. And our good friend Martin over on the Spring team, he created this Spring Cloud pipelines a long time ago, and it's no longer being supported. It's work, and I'm really understanding how much work it is. But I was inspired by that. I like the things that I learned and I've taken from that project. So I'm just like I'm taking another hack at it. We have some different tools available to us today. Things have changed. I've got Spring Shell. The Spring Cloud pipelines had a lot of bash in it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just taking another swing at it. So I'm going to show you kind of what it looks like because we can. So I'm going to go here. I think I'm going to go undo the things, and I just want to do them again. And if it works, great. If not, that's okay too.
All right.
So I have some of these projects, and they're all out there. I'm going to go into the Terraform Concourse is the last thing that I stand up. I got like the instructions here. So I'm going to Terraform destroy these things, and I'll work backwards. Auto approve. And I just wanted to show some things, kind of show where I'm at, how things are going, because so I'm working on this. This isn't anywhere near where I want it to be. But just this idea as a developer, I want to come in, I want to understand just enough of what production looks like so that I can move forward, so I can have that parity. And I like the Cloud Foundry API. So I like Karifi. I can run this. I'm running on a bigger machine, but this whole setup works on my little 16 gig Apple MacBook Air. So nothing fancy. It's taken a long time to tear down. But when that's done, we'll tear it
Well, it's
down.
the
We'll tear
demo
it all the way
gods,
down.
man. They're always
Yeah.
going to jump onto you.
Yeah, but we're going to tear everything down. I do Vault next. And let's terraform, destroy that. And I think that's all I need to do. And then I'm going to go to Cloud Foundry. Karifi is where I get started. And I'm going to do my kind delete cluster. Remix is the name. So I'm going to try to go through this again and just kind of see like, hey, what we're doing. Todd Libby is here. Hey, Todd. Happy to see you. Thank you for joining. My mom and dad like to watch these shows. So wherever you're joining from, let us know where you're joining from. Say hi. Because, yeah, my mom and dad like to watch this. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. So
Always got to
now-
say hi to mama.
Yeah. So now I don't have anything there. My cube CTX is not pointing to anything. So I'm going to go kind create. No, I have the script. This script is right here. I like this because it kind of gives me the setup. I don't have to do a lot. It's just like, hey, point to this script and then run it. So this is literally what I'm doing.
It's one of the things I always enjoyed about your demos is that you put them out in such a way that they're easy for other people to pick up on, kind of digest and be able to pick apart and modify if they want to.
I want them to be like reusable. I want them to be ephemeral. Like, hey, I can maintain and go and as a developer too. That idea, if I'm a developer and I'm pushing things to production, I don't want to feel like my laptop is fragile. I want to be like, oh, I can wipe it, I can upgrade, I can do all the things, and yeah, just delete it and start over. Instead of, I don't want to be troubleshooting production issues on my laptop. I want to delete it and start over. So let's see how long this takes. It's going to stand up. I'm running Kubernetes inside of Docker. So I've got Docker desktop running. We can show that, right? And it's standing up. It says 16 days ago, but I think it's just leftover. And yeah, we're standing up this control plane. So Kubernetes inside of Docker, and then on top of Kubernetes, I'm deploying Karifi. Karifi is just an implementation of most, I'll say, or at least parts of the Cloud Foundry API, so that I can do things like CF push, which I like. So that's it. There's
Kind
no
of taking
special
that,
sauce here.
the whole kubectl, wrapping that around commands that people already know. So
Yeah.
you want to move from, hey, I've been working on Cloud Foundry. I want to use that muscle memory, want to deploy on Kubernetes. Karifi does a good job with that.
I like it. And it works. Like, again, we're talking about 12 factors. That one of the things about Cloud Foundry is it handles those 12 factors, right? So it's installing. And then after this, my next step is deploy Spring Cloud Gateway. So let's go take a quick look at that. I made a Spring Cloud Gateway. I have the repository here in this same repo. I need to clean up the repo, but it works. And all I'm saying here is once you're up and running, let's do the stuff. So here's that same bash. I want to make sure that I'm logged into my Cloud Foundry, but this is just local. So, do this after you reboot. Now I don't have anything deployed. But this Spring Cloud Gateway implementation it shows some of the cool things about Spring Cloud Gateway. It's not too complicated. So it's just a simple Spring Cloud Gateway. I didn't add a whole lot of stuff to it. And I did all of my configuration here. What I'm saying in my configuration is like, I'm deploying 2 routes, one for Concourse. So if I come in with this host, this is like the local NIPIO. So anything that's coming to this, it'll hit my local machine. But if I'm coming in with that host name, then I want it routed to this Concourse service. So I'm just giving myself a way of exposing Concourse and Vault that are part of my little Cloud Pipelines remix. So I'm doing that for both.
And this is giving a good starter for people that want to look into Spring Cloud Gateway about how to actually do some of these things.
I've got one instance, one application that is fronting two other applications, and based on the host name,
Hmm.
it's going to handle the routing. But also, I've got a little circuit breaker in here. So if that service isn't up, I get redirected to a circuit breaker. Like, hey, don't call me anymore because I'm not up. So
Right.
now, because I'm already logged in, I can just do let's CF push. I also had my manifest in there, which gave it the name and said, hey, this is Remix Gateway. Here's the routes that I want you to listen to.
Well,
So that'll take a few seconds because it's using build packs. So I didn't have to do anything, but just this idea of like, hey, yeah, good, it's up and running. I can expose this to the outside world, but it's just nice. It's like
yep.
I have these, the whole networking. Sometimes when we're doing microservices, especially for us that have been using Cloud Foundry, we forget about how complicated microservice architectures can be. Right? Cloud
Yeah.
Foundry takes care of a lot of the networking concerns that we have when we're trying to deliver, yeah,
No, I mean,
microservice
we don't pay
architectures.
developers to know load balancing and GSLBs and networking routes and all that stuff, right?
Right.
So, you don't want to have somebody that's an expert in, working on cars trying to fly a plane here. So,
Yeah. So this is the application that's getting deployed into that remix space. But with just the Cloud Foundry's Karifi, I get cert managers. It's going to create
mhm.
certs as I need them. I've got Project Contour handling my ingress. Like I get those things just kind of taken care of, and it's set up for that local route, so I can go and access it. I can hit this Z to sanitize and say, yeah, please. So now it looks like my application is coming up. So I did my CF push, and yeah, I'll have a route here in a sec. Oh, there's a build container, and then it's deploying that image. It's using KPack under the covers. So this is how when I do a CF push to Karifi, just like in Cloud Foundry, there's a build system, and here it's KPack, but it's still using Cloud Native build packs under the hood, implementing that same API structure, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's nice how you're showing how all these commands and what they're kicking off on the Kubernetes side to show, what we're doing with Karifi under the hood.
Now I'm on an M1, so yeah, like that is it's cool. I'm pretty sure it's going to work. Even though I'm on ARM64 architecture, I can do CF apps and I can see that hey, it's running. And remember, I had my Spring Cloud Gateway. Let me grab that route. I had Spring Cloud Gateway set so it would fail over. And I can see here, like that's my fallback. There
Hmm.
is no concourse that's up and running. There's no vault that's up and running. So it's like, hey, I got a failover. So no ugly errors, good user experience. That's another feature that Spring Cloud Gateway provides. And most of the config that I did in Spring Cloud Gateway was YAML. It was easy for me. I can go in and update some YAML to add new routes. Yeah, like let's do it. I'm gonna add one more. No, we'll come back to it. I was gonna just like show how easy that is. But this is cool. This doesn't take a lot of time. So now I've got my gateway deployed to Karifi, to Cloud Foundry. And now I'm going to take another step and I'm going to go deploy a Terraform. So we can leave that running. I'm going to deploy my.
So what's your Terraform doing?
So all these these projects are just standing up the different pieces. I could easily connect them with Terraform to say, hey, just Terraform, go stand up Karifi, then stand up the gateway and just do them all back to back. But I'm still kind of in the build process a
Gotcha.
little bit, kind of designing. So yeah, we're up. We did our Spring Cloud Gateway. So now the next thing is Vault, right? If I go back to my instructions, that's what I'm saying here. Like, hey, do a gateway. Let's deploy a Vault. Vault's going to be configured with app role and app secret so that Concourse can connect to it. So on the same Kubernetes cluster, I'm just setting up some credentials so that Concourse has access to Vault for secrets,
Okay.
because we don't want to keep our secrets and our pipelines and all that kind of stuff. We want to keep them secret so we can rotate them with something like Vault. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. I'm going to jump over this.
So GUI's question, why Vault? Is that what you're seeing most people are using? Why not use something like Red Hub or something to that effect?
I've used Credit Hub. Like at this point, it's switchable.
Yep.
And I honestly don't know why. I think it was because a customer was using Vault and I was learning Vault and I was going to go and build some automation for them anyways. So I think that's why I went down this path.
I guess the important part is modular, right? And if you've got a
Yeah.
different secrets manager, plug into that.
So I'm going to do Terraform. I'm going to make sure, like, this is what you do. Make sure that we're using all the latest, greatest modules. I'm sorry I haven't committed this, but if it works, we'll push it, right? So my project is ready. We can do a Terraform plan, and we'll see that it's going to stand up some things. It's going to add 7 things. I handle my Terraform a little different. I like to be able to look into a project. Normally Terraform, you see like a variables, a main, and an output, and that's it.
Right.
I like to be able to look in and see kind of what am I looking at? What's in this Terraform project? So I label my files with the types that are in there.
Gotcha.
So now we can Terraform apply auto approve. It looked good. So we're just going to keep on going. The whole idea here is just, I want a platform. I want it to go a little bit faster than this, but just be able to like stand up an environment and go. Have a concourse, have pipelines that I can go run because we like to do the Spring Application Advisor. But like have those things in place. Have like our Nexus implementation that's pulling down from the commercial repo. I want to have those things, or at least an example of them. So I'm kind of there's 2 drivers here. There's the driver of the idea of a developer that comes to work at my org, giving them a easy button so that they've got an environment, they've got a mini platform that's going to look a lot like what production looks like. That's the whole thing, that concept. And I'm just that guy where I was like into build a lot of stuff and have my systems running, my big A apps. I wanted to be able to do end-to-end tests without hitting a git commit and having that long feedback loop, right? This is one of those things that makes, I think, a lot of developers faster. They've reduced the feedback loop. They don't have to wait for a bunch of build pipeline things to happen on another system where they're fighting with every other big A app and little A app in the org. If I can do this locally, I can have a shorter feedback loop, that inner loop that we talked about.
What's the quickest way to innovate? Just do it, right?
Just do it.
Yep.
Right? So now we can see that I've got Vault. I'm going to bump this down a tish so I can see the timing. I like K9s.
It does make things easier, doesn't it?
I've been up for 94 seconds, but now I've got a Vault. And remember, I made a Spring Cloud Gateway that gives me a route to it. And now that I've got Vault backing it, when I hit here, I've got my Vault UI.
Nice.
So that's
Perfect.
fantastic. So now that I've got a Spring Cloud Gateway giving me access to Vault, I can go and throw my secrets in there. But the last thing that I was wanting to do was show the concourse. And again, I'm trying to make it easy button, limited number of secrets. The secrets for this system, they're getting created by the Terraform. So here, I'm creating the private keys with this. There's no private keys for this system anywhere else. They get created for this instance and they get used on this instance. And when I Terraform destroy, they're gone. I like that.
Gotcha.
Okay. So let's do that Terraform init just to make sure, right? We're just showing things. It looks good. Terraform plan. My fingers are crossed. Hey, we got it. We're going to add some stuff. So let's Terraform apply it. Auto approve. And we're just deploying that concourse. And this will take a few seconds and we can go watch it being deployed.
There it is.
This is it. Like, that wasn't too long, right? We've only been on here for 20-ish minutes. But yeah, you can imagine how that's, I can write a bash shell that says, do this, do this, do this, do this, or put it all into a Terraform and Terraform apply it. But yeah, these are the pieces. I'm just showing all the pieces.
Right.
And hopefully this ends up being clean. But because of what we saw at Spring One, because we have things like Spring Application Advisor, because we're talking more and more about how it's not just how things are running, it's that whole path from git commit to production. One of the things that is really top of mind for me because of the conversations that we're having around Spring Application Advisor is like a lot of pipelines, they look like this. And I literally had somebody say like, hey, they said our apps get scanned on the way to production. Like, that's great. That hey, I do a git commit and the containers are scanned, the apps are scanned. We now have the software bill of materials endpoint on our Spring Boot apps. Like that's great. But if you're only doing this part on the way to production, what happens when your apps you don't have CVs? What happens? I deployed it yesterday, and there was no CVs, but and today there's a a 9.2 on something that I deployed yesterday. And if I'm not
Right.
doing this continuous, not just upgrade, but continuous scans, continuous like get all of the latest information so that I know what's being affected. This is an important thing that's been top of mind because this is one of the things that Spring Application Advisor is kind of set up to do. Is I say it's kind of like this, where we're looking at the tip of that repository. Actually, I'm gonna do it like this. I'll just say, hey, like Spring Application Advisor. My favorite feature of the Tanzu platform, and I'm saying every 3 hours. I should put every 3 hours. Every 3 hours. Every repository.
Well, it's important you bring that up. I know a lot of people are out there is like, hey, how much can change in one day? But I mean, if you look at what's it's like 106 in 2024 CVEs are getting released today. It was like 80 last year. So,
Yeah.
that's per day. So statistically, you're going to have this happen to you.
Yeah. Like if you're only, and the thing is, even if you're only using like the same 300 libraries, the thing about an SBOM, like it's not just the dependencies that are in your POM file, it's the dependencies that they're bringing in and the dependencies all the way down. Like you have to be scanning for all that because, the CVE might be in something that's five levels deep.
Right.
So yeah, you got to keep up with that. And it doesn't seem like it was that long ago where we didn't care. 6 months was great. Oh yeah, we'll update and patch everything every 6 months. Like that's just not good enough today.
No, not when you're seeing the
fast.
types of CVs coming out that we are. That
Yeah.
that you waiting a week could be the difference between you making the news and you not making the news, right? So
Yep. And yeah, like there's even I had a good conversation with another one of our colleagues, Doug Sauce, and I'm triggering this every 3 hours. But there's another trigger. I think he was using Trivy. Trivy's database gets updated every 3 hours, so it's got all the CVE information, all that scan information. But the idea is like I want to trigger. I can have that be my trigger in just the same way. Like, hey, there's a new CVE database. Go fire off and make sure that we're still patched. Make sure that we're still updated. This is important stuff.
right.
So this idea, it's more than just the path to production. It's how are you taking care and maintaining all of the software that's running in production that you're building your business on top of. So that's why this is all top of mind. So now we have.
Well, and I like the automatic scanning portion of this as well, because one of the things that people generally look is they put like Spring App Advisor. We want to go look at it. They put it in the same way in that path to production.
Yep.
But if your application's sitting out there,
Yeah.
if you're only waiting when you push new codes, you don't know what's happened and what's been discovered in the code that you've already released during that
Yep.
time.
What about the stuff that hasn't had a new feature in 6 months?
Yep.
All right. So I'm expecting this to come up, and it's coming up slowly. Oh, there it is. So I have a concourse. I have a vault. I have a concourse. Like things are looking good. So that's just a thing, and I'm going to be showing more. So I'm looking ahead, and some of the demos that we've been showing, I want to kind of show it in a different way. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to clean up, and I'm just going to shift a little bit because it all matters, right? Mm-hmm. The idea that I'm a developer and I'm in the box, and the decisions that I make don't affect the platform team, and the platform's like, the developers are going to love this, and they make a decision, and they're not getting feedback from the developers. I'm still a big believer in DevOps. Like the team's got to work in whatever you call it. I don't care, but there has to be communication. Decisions being made in silos isn't great. We've learned that, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to think like a platform engineer, and I'm trying to think of, as a developer, what kind of experience do I want? And I'm trying to kind of merge those two together, but then again, make it visible. I want people to be able to do these things easily. So some of the demos, the one that I do the most often, we'll jump into that because I haven't recorded it in a while. and I have these. It's this one, right? Do I not have that one? This one. And just make sure I'm on the latest version. But this is the demo that up until Spring Application Advisor got released. Oh, that's an old version. Up until Spring Application Advisor got released, I was doing this demo
Right.
about 20 times a week. We're not going to set that as the default. And I know this is the number of builds of Java 8. That's the number of builds. Not necessarily they all got released, the number of builds. And I know the last time I looked, it was actually at 422. Java 8's been around for a long time.
Right.
I don't know many things that are used as widely that have that many builds. I honestly can't think of anything. Even like the Linux kernels, they kind of moved faster over the years, but I don't think that there's a major version of Linux that has had more builds.
Well, and it's kind of a testament to Java, but it's also, I don't know. I'm not a developer, Deshaun, but you correct me if I'm wrong. One, it's really great that, Java 8's been around so long and people are still using it because it works.
Yep.
It just works. But then you start looking at like Java 21 and all the things that are coming up in it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may work, but man, it could be so much better if you start using the newer stuff.
Right. And then that goes right back to this. It's like the other thing outside of CVEs, like if you're not doing this, if you're not going back and looking at the things that you've already taken to production, you're wasting money. Right.
Yep.
That's the other thing. So here I'm starting with Java 8. I grabbed a Spring Boot 2.6, which is also end of life. Don't use it anymore. And I'm upgrading it. So I already did the upgrade. So now it's already up. Or no, we're upgrading. So I showed that it worked. And now we're doing the upgrade. And this is using Open Rewrite. Thank you, Jonathan Schneider and team. And it's going to upgrade us from Spring Boot 2.6 all the way up to Spring Boot 3.3. And it goes fast and it's cool. And this is available for everybody. One of the things, this is the black background, but one of the things that I put into my notes is like, I want to make sure that people understand the difference between the commercial stuff and the open source stuff. So this is open source. So what I was going to do is like, hey, when I'm doing open source stuff, I want to have the white background. And then when I go to commercial, then I'm going to go to dark mode. So
That's a
I
good
can
idea.
make a real clear distinction of here's what's going on. So my application is still up and it's running. And then we're going to take a little sample of how much memory it's using. And we did that already. And I've done it, many, many times. And I'm just kind of showing, this is like kind of a short and sweet, but the last one that this does, now it's on Spring Boot 3.3, it does a native image. And this native image, it takes a little bit of time. It takes a lot of resources. It's going in and converting bytecode down into native code for this operating system in this architecture. So I'm on a Mac. So this is Darwin, and it's using the Apple Silicon. So that's Arch 64. So that's what it's doing, and it's spinning up using all the CPU that it can because it's analyzing every branch of that code, looking for things that it can optimize. And it's not a new or magic technology. The JVM has actually been doing this since we had the Hotspot JVM, which came out with Java 1.3 way back in the 90s.
Right.
We were doing this, and what was the JVM was saying, oh, I see that this is a hot part of code. It's been executed this many times. So I'm going to take that bit of code and I'm just going to optimize it down to the native operating system. And whenever I come to that block of code, I'm just going to drop to the native because it's faster. And then I'll do the rest in the JVM.
Yep.
So we've been doing this for a long time. And the team over at Grawl Labs said, why not just do it for everything?
Yep.
But it's a trade-off, right?
Well, and I know you were on the show yesterday, but I'm going to be. Everybody should watch because Josh Long went through the great thing about the -- Josh Long, so you can play elevator music.
Yeah, the -- Josh Long mode. I did not do that, but yeah, we got to do the -- Josh Long mode, and yeah, it takes time. And this is exactly what he was talking about. The trade-off of this optimization is that it takes time. So we're doing it ahead of time, and it took 1 minute and 22 seconds. Right. And that's, not enough time. Like he said, not enough time to go to the bathroom or get a drink, but the results are great. Right. And the trade-off is great. I like that trade-off because I don't have cloud money. I have Raspberry Pi money. So these things I'm deploying to small Raspberry Pis and I can fit them. So it's still Spring Boot, still production ready, enterprise grade stuff that I can now deploy in different places. So this demo just shows like, hey, here's Spring Boot 2.6. We started up. Here's how much memory we were using at the beginning. Then by upgrading, and we upgraded all the way to the latest, greatest 3.3.4, we got faster, for workloads that are scaling. That's important. We saved footprint. We're using less memory. A Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, the one that kind of like took the world by fire, has 512 megabytes. The Raspberry Pi Zero has 512 megabytes. So I can only fit one of those, barely one of these on a Raspberry Pi Zero, on one of these little ones. But I could fit maybe two on here. Yep. But if I do the native image step, if I take that extra minute and 22, then I can fit 5 or 6. 5 safely.
Do more with less.
77% savings.
Yeah.
But this isn't just about things that we're running on Raspberry Pis. This is, the numbers are even bigger. The percentage might be smaller, but the numbers are even more valuable, right? If I
translate over into something real world, man. If your business is running 1,000 applications, even getting half of what you just got, enormous cost savings.
I like to joke. I like to make jokes. I try to joke. Is like, you could do this if you don't care about your company. You can just stay. Like it's fine. It's you're not going to get fired over it.
Nope.
Right. But like if I've shown this to you, if I've come and shown this to you in a court of law in the United States, I might be considered an expert here. I might be considered. And if I've showed you how easy it is to upgrade and then you don't do anything, that in a court of law, that might be considered gross negligence. So I'm just putting it out there. In the US,
just take it from a personal level, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to be the guy that's just getting stuff done and people are happy? Or do you want to show up and say, hey, boss, I cut my application by 90%, 96%. I want to be a hero. I don't need to tell them that
that's an important part.
Showed me how to do this.
That's an important part. My advice for anybody here is to say, like, look, if you do this, you gotta capture those numbers. You owe it to yourself, to your career, to your future self. Capture the numbers. Tell a little story. It won't take that long. It'll take 5 minutes to tell a story of how easy it was to go and upgrade. We just did one here, but you can see how easy it would be to do 20 of them. And just by upgrading, if you save 45%, even 40%, and where we work, if you do that, even for one app, if you do that, you'll get a nicely written email. You do it for 10, you might even get a pat on the back. I'm just saying. You
got to have some information. Everybody knows self-directed bonus times, right? You got to have facts to put in your bonus.
You got to have.
You want to get a good bonus at the end of the year?
Yeah,
writing it for you right here.
But here we go. If you can upgrade 70%, even where we work, if we go in and save 70%, I know on my team, my whole team gets cookies. If I go and find 77% savings at scale, the whole team gets cookies. Yep. So it's just a cheat code, right? So I've been doing this one for a long time. And sometimes I don't have all 5 minutes. Like if I run this again, it's going to take about 5 minutes. I've got the timing down because I work with a lot of customers and that's what we do. But there's more, right? So
well, and one thing I do want to add in here is you were showing with the long time for native compilations. We've had some customers come back and say, man, we're never going to run those long compilations in production. But what you showed on Kubernetes, right? Once you create the container, you can throw that out. You can do the same thing. You can reuse the droplets on Cloud Foundry and deploy those to additional files. So it's really kind of a one-time cost. You build it once, you can deploy it multiple times. You don't have to see that every time you go.
Exactly. I'm going to build it once, but I'm going to deploy it multiple times. Hey, Harpreet, how are you? It says, I am wizard and did some magic. Our app is faster and lighter. That's it. Go tell the story. Harpreet, thank you so much for joining. And I want to say that Harpreet has created a blog around Karifi and his deployment. I like it, and I've made changes. So Harpreet, I kind of followed your lead. I'm kind of putting some automation around it. I don't remember how he did his DNS, but I want to say thank you for writing that blog. I took great value. I've looked over it many times. I've taken back, and here's what I'm doing. I showed earlier. I don't know if you were here. I've deployed a Karifi somewhere here that has the cert manager, has all the things, but I also deployed Concourse and Vault onto this, and it took us a few minutes. So yeah, happy to talk about that soon. And this idea, this is again, I empathize. I advocate for developers. If if I'm taking an application in production, whether it's going to be running in production native or not, I said earlier that I like to be able to run things locally. I like to be able to do end-to-end tests. I like to be able to have things running. So why not? Why not build a native image or two, right? Because I've got to build it for both ARM64 and x86 because not everybody, let's do this one, right? Not everybody's on an M1. Not everybody's deploying to Raspberry Pis, but I can with native images, I can literally have all of the apps deployed. The other nice thing about Karifi versus I used to like Knative, but now I have Keta. I've got an option for using Keta, and I showed you I did the Spring Cloud Gateway. There's another little piece there. Knative, when you deploy it to a cluster, Knative takes over the whole cluster. It still gives you that ability to scale up and scale down, scale to zero, etc. But when I do Karifi, you can't do both on the same cluster. Knative, it's set up to own the cluster and do all the things. But with Karifi, I can still deploy Keta. So again, you're gonna understand this part where let's say I've deployed to Cloud Foundry. I'm gonna draw here. And our friend Mark, which we'll jump right to that after this. This idea where, hey, I'm doing CF push. My normal path of production is great. But what about the workloads in the rest of the world? I don't need them to be up 24/7. I need something to answer all of my customers wherever they're at, but they don't need to be up 24/7. So I'm going to do this, Deshaun.com. And I'm going to remind everybody that my children will never deploy active passive. That's just not how we do things in my house. We don't have the money to spend. So this idea of having multiple regions, if I deploy 100 apps and the world turns, right? We have daytime, we have nighttime, and our businesses typically don't operate at the same levels 24/7 in every region that our business operates. So I've lived there. I've been in the spot where the applications were at the high water mark for everything. Everything was going to be scaled up to the high water mark. We wanted to make sure that we weren't losing anything. But a large part of that time, things didn't need to be scaled up. Right. Rarely, right? If you're doing taxes, hey, yeah, there's a time for taxes where that's happening. Holidays, retail, there are times where you need to have that scale. But normal times, it goes up and down throughout the day, and we just want to be able to answer the call. But I don't want to waste a bunch of money on infrastructure. So Mark brought this up, but I also have a path here where, hey, I'm going to use CF push to deploy to Karifi. And maybe I don't want that app running all the time, right? So right now I've got my gateway running, and that's okay. I'm going to have my gateway running so I can have access to the other things. But that gateway can also act as the trigger for other images that have been scaled to zero. Dr. Sire created an example. I have one somewhere, github.com, dsire. And he has a repository with Keta. And he did a reference implementation. I have one as well. Maybe I even forked it. No, I don't. Where we can use Spring Cloud Gateway as the trigger to stand up something, to scale up, scale out an image. So that's the idea. That's why I also like to have Spring Cloud Gateway, because I can use that CF push, get my image, but I can do kind of what Mark was doing. I can take that image and I can say, oh, hey, it hasn't had traffic for this long. Let's scale it to zero.
Right.
Let's go and make it so that Keta is now managing that instance, and I don't have an app running, so that I can scale up from zero. So I'm thinking outside of the box here. I'm thinking, hey, I want this stuff to run on my 16 gig MacBook Air, so I'm going to deploy some things to Keta and have them scale to 0. So when I have a system that has 20 microservices, even with the smaller footprints, right? Even with this, right? I can't have 20 of these running and Slack and my IDE on a 16 gig laptop, right? It'd be too much, but I can scale down, right? If I do this and I can scale up and down, I can scale up in a few dozen microseconds, milliseconds.
Yep.
Then my experience as a developer is great. I can still have all of those instances deployed to my laptop, even my 16 gig, MacBook Air, and I can experience. I can connect the dots. I can do an end-to-end test without the long feedback loop of doing a git commit and having it go to some other environment.
Yep.
More
Well,
and
and
more
your
of this.
sub-second being able to bring new application instances up, that's where Java 21 and the native image really shines. You get a huge burst, you can scale that in seconds. You could have hundreds running.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yes. That's the whole thing. I remember hearing a session from John Schneider, who also the author of Micrometer, also the author of Open Rewrite. He's a brilliant man, but I remember, and I won't ever forget, the way that he explained the Thundering Herd problem at Netflix. It was a Super Bowl, and what was happening is people were watching the Super Bowl, and during a Super Bowl commercial, they were coming over to Netflix and seeing what's going on. And by the time things scaled up, again, this is a decade or more ago, over a decade ago. By the time they scaled up, the traffic was gone because it was just that commercial blip. But they had all this stand up. And they weren't making it. They were getting a bunch of failed, users not seeing what they were supposed to do, things failing over because they weren't able to scale up fast enough. By the time they did scale up, all the traffic was gone. And the next commercial break, they ran into the same thing again.
Financial industries, trading apps, things of that are really down to sub-second level. You want to be able to scale those up quickly.
Right. Well, this is a 96% improvement over what we were able to do with Java 8. In some cases, we're talking, but this idea of sub-second scaling, that's real. Oh, hold on one sec. What? What? I'm on a live stream.
Can you take a 30-second break and help me get this up the stairs?
Wait, what? I
didn't
can't.
mute.
Well, hurry. And I didn't mute, so now everybody's hearing that what's going on. I love you.
I need help.
I love you. So now the clock is ticking. So we'll cut this short, and that was fantastic.
Yep.
Not the first time that I've done that.
Yep. You don't want to get in trouble anymore than you already are.
I don't want to get in trouble anyway. Like you hear how it goes. She says, "Hey, I need help." She's like,
Yep.
"Can you stop what you're doing? Because I need help right now."
That's right.
So now we'll go faster. So this is the
If
one
only
that
you
I've
were
been
in
doing.
native image and you could pull yourself out like in sub-seconds to send her a new image.
Scale.
Yeah.
So I like to make these things better. I want them to be easy to consume. So I put them in repos because I don't want to just like hold it. I want our audience, our field, our customers, I want them to be able to go and do it. So here we're using Java 8 build 422, but we're doing the same app, and I'm still just using OpenWrite. So here, I'm starting at this time, I'm using the java-jar command, which is what you can do on the command line if you're running locally. It's kind of what your IDE is going to do.
Right.
And Anbu's here, and he says, you got to listen to the boss.
I know that guy.
same app, we got a few megabytes here. It's timing. It's going to be a slightly different result than what we saw before. But yeah, there's fluctuations. It's not a science. But here, this time I'm still upgrading to Spring Boot 3.3. It's still doing the exact same thing that this one did. It's running the same recipe. But here I'm not showing the output. I'm only showing, I've done a grep to just show that it's a nested set of recipes, right? This is a powerful feature of Open Rewrite. This is why Open Rewrite is winning, right? It's the framework for writing recipes that's won, right? There's a lot of others that have come and gone, including ones that we developed here on the Spring team. So now we're up to 3.3.4. I'm doing the same thing. Hey, make sure it's healthy, snap an image. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show some of the other deployment stuff. So I did the upgrade and I deployed it the same way, java-jar. But some of the stuff that we get inside of build packs, like this, I'm extracting the boot app for efficiency. I'm using this jar mode tools. And some of this stuff, we don't realize that our build packs are actually getting all of this benefit for us. So it's starting, it may be faster or slower, but faster startup time and a smaller footprint at that time because of the extraction. Our build packs have been doing that for a long time because we can. But now I'm going to do one more thing. We got this with Spring Boot 3, this ahead of time processing. What this is doing, it's going through the app and it's filling in the proxies. It's making it so like, what do we know about this app at build time? Filling in where it was doing a reflection, like, hey, I'm going to get a proxy to this thing and say, this is the implementation. So we're doing a little bit of the work ahead of time so that our app can start up faster, use less memory. So this is the ahead of time processing. And this is fantastic. Now, this is new with Spring Boot 3.3, class data sharing, a feature that's been in the JVM for a long time that allows the app's metadata to be shared across JVMs, across instances. So it takes a training run and it says, hey, here's some of the classes. I don't know the details, but it makes it faster. And it builds a class data sharing archive so that we have that metadata so we don't have to do a bunch of work at the startup. But now we can do both of those together. So I can do the AOT, the ahead of time processing, to fill in those proxies and reduce the amount of reflection that we have. And then I can do a training run and build the metadata that's going to get loaded so I can have an even faster time. And the cool thing is, I've just gone through like 5 different deployments, I think.
Right.
And the results are that I have a startup time that is really, really close to the native image startup time.
Nice.
But I still have all the benefits of the JVM. So check this out. Oh, this one is actually, yeah, that's fast. So here's our same one that we started with over here. I can put those side by side. Same one we started with. It's slightly different, but you get the gist.
Yep.
Then I upgraded. I got a 33% boost just by upgrading. Then I extracted the jar. I got a little bit faster by doing that. And the timing here is just like, hey, right, this one is actually using less memory than this one, but that's okay. The timing matters. But still, it's faster. Then I did the AOT processing, which is faster. Cool. I'm still saving memory. Then I did the app CDS, even faster than the AOT, saving more memory. Fantastic. And then I combined them both. So I'm doing a bunch of stuff here, but it didn't take that long. But the whole idea is I still have a sub-second startup time for a Java app.
Yep.
And it's not a fancy Java app, but to see these numbers dropping without having to do the minute and 22. Actually, let's do this. I know I was going to do some timing. My wife is going to need my help, but this is the whole idea is we have the ability to do this with Java. And if you're building your own Docker files, which you shouldn't be, you don't get to take advantage of these new things as they come out. Anbu says, AOT and CDS seems interesting to play with. Anbu, if you're using the commercial versions of the Tanzu build packs, you get that automatically. Like it's just configured. So if you're writing on Tanzu platform, you get it and you can do it. It's available in the Paketo build packs. You can configure it, but this is cool stuff. Like,
well, and Deshaun, as you know, I'm an infrastructure guy. Anybody that knows me knows I am not a developer, but you may not have a lot of infrastructure guys on your show, but why is this important? I mean, besides just getting all the benefits, this is a great way to make a guy like me happy. You're reducing your footprint on my infrastructure. You're giving me more capacity for me not having to do anything. And in cases of like failovers or scale events or storms that are coming in, we're able to bring your application up a lot quicker, right? So you want to make friends with your infrastructure guy?
Yeah.
This is a great way to do it.
One of the things that, I'll be honest, I don't hear it a lot, but I've been hearing it a lot lately. 'Tis the season. Is like apps are still like, how do you get cloud budget? How do you get infrastructure stuff? There's still this budget reservations thing that's happening. But your team doesn't want to go through the whole process of we want to do more, but we don't have any room inside of whatever your box looks like, right?
Right.
This is a great way to make room inside of your
Yep.
box.
Yeah, if you've got
Or whatever
quotas
it is.
and you're hitting up on your quota, but hey,
Yeah.
we got a new project that wants to come up. Really, the only thing you've got to go do is go up there and upgrade your apps to either native image or using the AOT and CDS. Get that memory footprint. And all of a sudden, your quota is only half what it was.
Yeah.
Now I've got room to go and do new projects without even having to go talk to anybody
Yes.
about increasing my quotas.
Artem, thanks for joining. And that's it. Like it's these are not difficult ways. I'm gonna just run this one again. I'm gonna do the time because it doesn't take long. I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, 6 different 6 builds in a couple of minutes. But that's it. This idea. And if you're using Docker files, building your own Docker files, that's just more time that you're spending, and you're not getting all of the good benefits that you could be getting. If you're building Docker files, you've got to go and upgrade a bunch of Docker files. If you were using build packs, you get all of that best. You can use the same build pack across all of your apps.
And
It
for
has
the
the
audience,
smarts.
realize what Deshaun's doing for you here. He's going through to show you this timing, knowing he's going to get beat when he gets off of this
I am
podcast because he made his wife wait.
Yes, but it's not going to be very long. It's going to be like 60 more seconds.
So maybe not a black eye, just a busted lip.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I got the weekend. I'll heal. So this is cool. I wanted to jump into a bunch more things, and maybe I'll ping you after I help my wife. But this is the idea. This is just fun. This is a Friday. I want to go through, and I'm just updating some of these. So on this one in particular, I think I'm going to take out a few of the steps. I think I'm just going to do or I'm going to make another demo where I just do, hey, here's Java 8. Then I'm going to do the AOT CDS. Do Java 8, do the upgrade, do the AOT CDS, and then do the native image. So the timing is going to be similar to this one on how long it takes. But yeah, I'm going to show more. So it's kind of like I'm going to upgrade this one. I'm going to put a CDS AOT one in between here. Just as another option.
Absolutely let me know, because I do want to get in. I got to see your concourse demo at Explore.
Yeah.
And I would love to be on part of that, because again, I think there's a lot for the infrastructure guys out there, there's a lot of relevancy there and what could be used there from an infrastructure and a platform engineer point of view, not just a developer point of view. So very interested in going back over that.
Yeah, and I told you I'm trying to make a distinction. This is stuff that you get for free that anybody can have, and then I'm building the Spring Application Advisor demo in a separate repo because I'm going to focus that on the commercial bits, right? The commercial stuff. But I got to make sure that I'm saying the right story, and the AOT CDS stuff that's available. I'm just saying in the build packs. The AOT plus CDS stuff is only available in the commercial build pack. You can still use the build packs to get a bunch of the other stuff, and you can configure it, of course. The build packs are not concrete. They are meant to be extended and configured. You don't have to use the defaults. You can switch out your JVM, for example. And you can do all of these things. But friends don't let friends use Dockerfile.
Yep.
You should be using build packs because you get a bunch
One of the
stuff.
many things I've plagiarized from you.
Yeah. I
So
don't
many
know,
things.
I don't know who started that. But it's very, very true. And it's just one of those things. So this is just running it again. I'm going to try to make this easier, but the Spring Application Advisor demo, I'm going to build it on top of the Cloud Pipelines Remix so that I can show the same demo that I showed at Spring 1 in the Spotlight. So that hopefully it'll be hey, push the button, stand up your Karifi instance, and then hey, here's the demo, and it'll just use Karifi to do the deployment.
See, now she's throwing stuff at you, ain't she?
I don't know what that was. Yeah, maybe.
I told you I needed help, Deshaun.
Question Dude Man says, is there any issue with a build pack changing versions without you defining? I don't think so, but I can't speak on that. It's not changing versions here. What I'm doing, what I was showing on the upgrade stuff, the upgrade I was doing outside of the build pack. I was running the upgrade. I don't think you'd want to do that. I'm doing the upgrades outside, and there's a pattern for that. And yeah, there's a few patterns for that, but I like the one that we're doing. So it took 3 minutes in 31 seconds to do.
Yeah, I
6
can't
builds.
expect that there would be. I mean, if you look at Cloud Foundry, if you're a developer and you push on Cloud Foundry, chances are you're changing build packs a lot more often than you even know when your engineer updates those if you're using defaults. So
Yeah, he says, yeah, I have a coworker that's worried about non-explicit dependency changes. What I can say is the build packs, sometimes they will add agents. Like if you've got agents, if it detects that you've got Dynatrace in there or you've got OpenTelemetry in there, it'll deploy that agent. It'll do some things for you. If you're running on a platform, it'll bind you right to the OpenTelemetry hooks. This was I don't remember the full details, but yeah, the build packs can deploy agents and config, but I don't think it's deploying any source code. So yeah, there's definitely something to look at. But yeah, that's also a feature, right? Having those things configured for you so that you're matching the platform. I don't want to deploy the agent that's the old version, and if I'm doing it in a Docker file, then I've got to, if I've got 20, I've got to go and be the maintainer of the Docker images too, and I don't want that as a developer. So
small recommendation for you. I really like
Yeah.
your black versus white versus commercial versus maybe in this one right here, those last two, you color those a different color just to show that those are only commercial side.
Yeah,
Just an idea.
that is a great idea. And it's not like I'm not using a build pack here. These are things that anybody can do, but the build pack does this for me automatically. But I could put a little asterisk there and show it. And having the same demo as using build packs, I think that would be slick too, because, right, especially here, the native image, depending on the native image, a lot of times is also smaller, right? That the container that you're deploying to all the regions around the globe. You're paying for all that transfer. It doesn't seem like it, but somebody's paying for the transfer of all those bits whenever you hop off the network. So this is it. This was fun. I wanted to get into a couple of other things, but we can do that again. We talked about the native image. We talked about taking a JVM image, converting it to a native image so I can scale up, scale down. And our friend Mark Fines, he did write a blog because this was a topic that really got a lot of attention and fantastic.
Yeah, I was going to say episode 21, on Cloud Foundry Weekly, he actually walks us through this. And what he does with this is he uses what's built into Cloud Foundry to take a running Java app. He pulls the droplet in the running app out, converts it to a native image, and redeploys it back out, all without bringing the app down, right? So kind of uses a blue-green deploy when he does that, but then gives you the chance to take existing applications, convert them to native, and get them redeployed without ever having to actually bring the app down to do so. So Cloud Foundry Weekly, episode 21, we put this blog post out. It actually went out today, but this gives you a good idea of how to do it. Also talks about the ability to how to do that portability. Again, when we were talking earlier about a lot of developers didn't want to do the long native build times when they're going to production. Do the build time outside of production, get the droplet, put that into your pipeline and deploy that instead of having to do the build on the foundation itself. Save yourself a lot of time.
Yep. Like pipelines are powerful. In my head, I know that there'll be people that argue, but in my head, the pipelines that lead into your platform, the pipelines are the care and feeding for your platform. They're what keeps your platform safe. They help provide guardrails for the platform, make sure your apps are well architected, providing those guardrails, but also the metadata, like having that audit trail so you can know what's running in your production. This is something that I think undervalued. Teams that know everything that's running in their enterprise, those types of orgs, they are really, really mature. We talk about getting to production fast and getting things out the door and, we do this many builds. One of the metrics that's not on the DORA metrics is, do you have an inventory of all the apps that are running in production?
Right.
That's not a metric. But I can't guarantee, but my visibility with the apps that we work with around, like the teams that have that inventory, the teams that know the status of their apps, they know the versions, they know the risks, they have a risk profile. And Netflix, right? Netflix knows how much money each one of those instances costs them, right? So they've got it and then some. But having those orgs that have the inventory, that know what's running, those are definitely in a best category. Every org has good, better, best, but the ones that have that inventory are in that best category. So this has been fun.
Well, and take a look at it from the infrastructure standpoint as well, right? We're wanting to do some upgrades. How do I know from a platform
the risk?
engineer, are my upgrades going to impact my developers? What's an
Yep.
easy way to know? Have that inventory out there, know what your versions are so that you can look at when stupid fly. You can
Well, I
look
thought it
at,
was just- yeah.
no, just something landing on my head. No,
Yeah.
that way you can take a look at your application inventory and be able to reach out to those developers to say, hey, maybe this upgrade's going to impact you. You might want to jump ahead of this.
Being able to look forward is wow.
Yep.
Like doesn't get enough hype. Being able to understand, hey, we're going to take this upgrade. Here's the apps that it may affect, and being able to give a heads up. That makes a developer's day,
Yep.
right?
It makes a
And if
platform
developers-
engineer's day.
Yep.
right?
If developers
Because
are-
I don't
are-
like to get calls after I've done an upgrade at midnight saying, "Hey, my application's down because you upgraded something on me and we didn't know it."
communication is important.
Yes, sir.
It is. Can we do this again?
Yes, sir. Anytime. If
Uh,
I'm available,
fantastic.
I'd love to jump on.
Fantastic. Yeah, this is good. I had a lot of fun. And sorry I got to cut it short, but the boss.
That's right. You don't want to mess with the boss; she'll mess with you.
Thank you so much. And
Hey, thanks for having me
Yeah,
on. I appreciate it,
sure.
Deshaun. We'll talk to you again soon.
take care. We'll see you.
Bye.